we have the young, the mighty Landon Barr on the channel. Thanks so much for joining me on the Wolfpack Way, Landon. How you doing today?
Hey, very good, very good. Thank you so much for just giving me the opportunity to come on the channel and share a little bit about what we do.
Yeah, man. Well, you know, us Ohio boys, we stick together. So excited to dive in. So first and foremost, we don't want to focus this all on your youth, but getting into the business at 18, one of the biggest things that people tell me is that I'm young, I don't have a sphere, none of my friends are ready to buy. So talk a little bit about how you overcame maybe some limiting beliefs based on your age and your youth, and kind of what that looks like today, having closed, 60, 70, 80 deals in your first, 10, 11 months here at EXP at the age of 22.
Yeah, so being 22 years old now, I think it's a little bit different than the typical agent. So when I first joined, and still this day, when I meet a client at a house, they look at me and they ask me, one of the first things they ask me is, how old are you? Or they ask me, or tell me, you look like you're 15. So that's something that happens quite a bit. But going into it, I learned that, being young can be a weakness, but on the other end of it, it can show, if I do a good job, that I like to hustle and I like to help my clients. So when I got licensed, I knew right at the get-go that I needed to know everything about properties, and I needed to understand that, since I'm young, I can't be dumb. So I learned everything when it came to properties, and then as well, I built my business on online leads. So I honestly don't have a lot of friends that are buying houses yet. We're just not at that age. So I went right into the online lead route, and I learned everything I could with online leads.
Okay. So you looked at something that could be perceived as a weakness and you changed it. So you talked about learning everything about a house and selling in the process. So Give me a couple things that you did kind of in your day to day that allowed you to learn everything you needed to know, so you had the knowledge to kind of impress those people that were a little bit concerned about that.
So it kind of taps into my story with my old brokerage, because that's where I was prior. And something he taught me was basically go inside the house and learn everything you possibly can. Go to inspections if that's possible, and be there and take notes and learn. You can learn things about properties on simple platforms like YouTube. As well as with other agents. So I wanted to learn everything I could so that I would be qualified to show my clients properties. So whether that's learning different types of flooring, luxury vinyl plank, cabinetry, countertops, the types of homes, the style of roof, all of these items on a home, you need to understand, what they are. And then you also need to understand the pros and cons of everything. So, heat sources, your style of home is very important, especially here in Ohio, especially because it gets very cold. Right. So really just diving into all details and all things real estate is a very important part when it comes to starting, and that's what I did.
Yeah. And talk to me a little bit about inspections, because, the rebuttal to that is, well, I don't have any inspections. Did you attend other agents? I know your dad's in the business, similar to my dad. How did you go to as many inspections as you possibly could?
There's inspections happening all the time. There's 100 different ways that you could figure that out. You can call other agents and say, hey, I'm new. I just would like to have the opportunity to tag along at an inspection and just learn. Your current brokerage, there's deals going on where you can tap in and go to the inspection, and then make sure that you're able to also look at a report and understand everything in that report. So my father was also an agent, but we actually got started at the same time. A lot of people think that he was an agent, a long time prior to me, but we got started at the same time, and we both did that together. We tagged along at as many inspections as we could, just to learn what was going on. Because at the beginning, when you get licensed, I think it's just very important to understand as much as you can.
Yeah, I think that's huge. And so as we transition, obviously you gained all the knowledge and all of that. How did you turn that into instant credibility, in person when you're talking to these clients and so on? Did you have some go-to scripts, or how did you show that credibility?
Yeah. So
I mean, go ahead.
I learned that when it comes to a showing, don't just say, "Hi, my name's Landon. Nice to meet you. Feel free to walk through the home and let me know what you think." I don't do that. I was taught to lead from the very beginning, when you get the phone call to the showing to the closing. So I like to lead. I open the door. I like to see tell them what I think, show them the flooring, show them the types of cabinetry and things of that nature in the home, and let them know the pros and cons. So as soon as I walk in that door with them, I'm kind of leading everything.
Mm-hmm. And obviously with the flooring and with all of the features of the home, I mean, what do you do when it's complete, when it's run down and it's rough? Because I know you've sold some lower price point homes, and how do you kind of transfer that information that you learned about the home into opportunity for your clients?
Right. So this is where I think I really build the most trust, because I'm meeting clients that I don't know. So I enjoy sometimes when the property isn't in the best condition, because I can point out to my clients the issues that I see, and they instantly trust me. Because why would a salesman tell me, this is not good? Or, at the end of showings, a lot of times I tell them I wouldn't buy this house. So I think when you meet a client for the first time, or even somebody you already know, when you have the skill set and everything in a property, what's good and what's bad, point out the bad, and that's going to build a lot of trust. So that's one of the common things I do, is I point out the good, but I also point out the bad.
Yeah. So it's almost like you're not selling it. You're selling them the experience of not being frustrated when,
Correct. I never walk into a showing and think to myself, okay, I'm a salesman, or I'm going to close on this house. I don't do that. That's not my mindset when I'm at a showing. My mindset is I want to maintain the relationship, and I want to help them find a house that fits their needs. So my mindset is never that I'm going to close on a house with them. I don't even plan on it, really. It just kind of flows.
Yeah. And I think that's a huge thing, is a lot of people equate this business to a sales business, and really it's a client relationship management business. And the ability to point out things, right? Because with every, negative in the house, there's obviously sweat equity and, appreciation gains that kind of come with it. So depending on who you're dealing with, if they are a little bit handy or whatever, they can save a lot of money and, do things on their own. So the fact that you're kind of going through it, you're attacking it, you're kind of building a list of, things before the inspection, right? And people are always like, well, let the inspectors do that. And I'm like, well, I want to make sure that before my client spends $500 to $1,000 on an inspection, that there's not something obvious that would be a deal breaker. So that makes a lot of sense, and it definitely tracks as you go. So as we kind of transition, somebody walks in, it's an online lead, and they just ask you how old you are. What is your response to that, and kind of how do you turn the tide into this more value-driven conversation?
Yeah, is that when I'm in the home, or
whatever? I mean, sure. What the first time they see?
A lot of times they only ask me that when I first meet them in the home, and I pull up and I speak with them, and I shake their hand. And I just tell them I'm 22 years old, and I'm from this area. And I think that gives them credibility. They're a little concerned at first, and I've had a lot of clients at closing tell me, we were not sure, you were 22 years old. We were not sure at first when we first met you. But by the time I am done with the showing, I think I earn respect by giving them a showcase of my knowledge and what I know. Yeah. Even the other day, somebody said, how old are you at the end of the showing? And I told them I was 22. And they said, wow, you're doing a great job. You're 22. I can tell you know a lot. So I'm not boasting my accomplishments or anything like that. If you have the skill set and you've been in enough homes, you will be able to show that client that it doesn't really matter what age you are, as long as you can give them what they need in a good service.
Yep. And I think that's super important because you're already meeting them, right? Usually for these online leads, it's because they want to see a house. You're meeting them at the house. You're kind of moving forward with the, at least a relationship for that one showing, and you don't hide behind it, right? You just say it. Hey, I'm Landon. I'm 22 years old. Like, let's check out this house. This is what I know about it. So you're leading with value, and you're kind of using that as a way to demonstrate like how far you've come, right? Because 22 years old, you should, be just finishing up college, or maybe on your 4th or 5th or 6th year, and you're, 3.5 years into a career already. And so that's incredible. So as the online leads start to come in, and I asked you this question the other day, but of your, transactions you've completed this year, give me a slight percentage of online leads versus, Sphere or, past client.
Honestly, this year I'm around 70 deals, and I'd say 70% are from online leads.
Okay. So we're talking 70% of 70 transactions. It's pretty incredible. So obviously you've taken things from those and gone there. So of the 70%, kind of what are your main online lead sources? Because, I know there are some free mixed in, pay at close, and so on. What breakdown look like?
A lot of people do different online lead sources. What I figured out and what works for me is what I'm sticking to at this time because it works. Mm-hmm. So I do Zillow, I do Redfin, realtor.com. I'm now a Veterans United partner, and I do UpNest, which is a selling platform, a listing platform of realtor.com. So I do all of those, like UpNest, Redfin, those are pay on the back end. Mm-hmm. And then Zillow and realtor.com, I also pay for buying leads up front.
Okay. And so Zillow, you're on the Premier Agent program, not the Flex program, which is an important delineation for sure. And of the 70%, how many are Zillow and realtor.com, like pay ahead, and how many are the pay at close?
I would say 35% are Zillow, another 15-20% are realtor.com, and then I guess the rest would be, pay at closing.
All right. So, 35 transactions, average price points, 100 to 200,000 usually in your area, but you're still doing 35 deals with pay at closing, lead generation and so on. But now that we've kind of narrowed that down, I just wanted to make the point that it's not just Zillow, it's not just pay up front. Half of his deals are coming from, pay at closing sources, which are absolutely free once you sign up. So let's talk about what the online lead in general looks like. And let's just focus on the buy side for now.
Sure.
So when you get an online lead, whether it's a Zillow, realtor.com, or, Redfin, what are your kind of processes there?
Yeah. So first of all, you have to have a goal. You have to know what your whole plan is from start to finish. And so when I was at the Zillow Flex team, I learned a lot, and I learned a lot of the data. And the data is that your first goal should be to set an appointment. That's it. So when I'm on the phone with the lead, I say, hey, this is Landon Barr with eXp Realty. I see you're looking at 123 Main Street. When would you like to see it? Okay. And then hopefully I can set an appointment from there. But usually that's not always the case. So if not, my goal is to kind of take care of that lead from the start. You don't want to let that lead go dry even for a day or two, because by that time, the chances of you getting a hold of that lead again are slim to none. So nurture it, form the relationship off of the bat, try to get the appointment. But if not, make sure you're following up and understanding how you can help them. Okay, so a lot of times these people are just looking, right? These are, some come in as nurture leads, which if you don't know what a nurture lead is, that's where it just comes in, where it has their name and phone number, and that's all you have. Some calls, primarily with Zillow, you have a live connection call, so that gets connected to you and you're on the phone with them directly. Mm-hmm. If it's a nurture, you have to make sure that you text them quite a bit, at least 7 times in a week. And I think a lot of people don't understand how much you have to text an online lead to actually make it convert. But the gold is in the follow-up, and you've heard that 100,000 times, but it's the truth. So I'm setting the appointment, or I'm starting to nurture them right off the rip and taking care of myself a year down the road when they buy. So that's the first step. Mm-hmm. Do you want me to kind of go through the rest of the process?
You're going through what next?
Sure. So if I haven't gotten the appointment, my goal is to get an appointment. How do I do that? I have to figure out what they're looking for and what their time frame is. If I know what they're looking for, I'm going to be sending them houses, right? Mm-hmm. So that's one of the main things I do is I make sure I know what my clients are looking for, and I send them houses. If there's not a house that is on the market, what I'll do is I will text them, hey, James Smith, this is Landon Barr with eXp Realty. Just scanned the market today and just want to let you know I'm looking for you, but I haven't seen any houses in your criteria. That way they know that I'm still looking for them, and we're keeping that relationship strong. And then the other way is, let's say that it's kind of a lead. I don't know exactly what they're looking for, but I will send them a house. And then from there, I will see, hey, what do you like or what do you not like about the house? And that way they know that we're kind of just building a rapport, and I'm working on figuring out what they want.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So when you're talking to someone, and obviously these leads, the buyers, especially the website based Redfin and Zillow and realtor.com, they're looking at a house. Right? That's how they found your contact information, clicked on your mugshot and decided, hey, we want more information on this house. That's kind of how those leads come in, right? So being able to, get them into the home. What happens if talk about your process, because I know it's good, is if they're like, yeah, let's go see that house. How do you then make sure that's not just a one-hit wonder? You're going to see the house because they're looky-loo. How do you then kind of turn that into a nurture situation if they're agreeable? Because I think that's part of that people don't fully grasp is like, okay, yeah, they're clicking on a button. They clicked my name because they want to see the house. I take them to see the house, and then what? Right? How do you not allow them to continue to repeat that process as you meet them at the first house?
Yeah, you have to impress them at the first showing, and you have to let them know that you can show them any house on the market. A lot of people think that you just call the listing agent on a listing and you can just kind of realtor hop. So I like to let them know that I can show them any property on the market, because that's a huge misconception that buyers don't know. And then also at the end of my showing, I always say this because it's going to help me learn exactly what they're looking for. I always say, hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being this is the perfect home. You love this home. You're ready to put an offer on this home today. Where would you rank this home? Let's say they say 6. Okay, great. What would make it a 10? That way they're going to give me what they're looking for. Hey, maybe we need a first floor bedroom. Hey, maybe we want we want a ranch. And then, okay, we're going to not look at any more 2-story homes. Yeah. So I think just doing a good job at the showing, making them understand the process, making them want to stick with you, and letting them know that you are looking for something for them. Yeah. So from there, I'm usually able to maintain that relationship, and I don't think many clients realtor hop after they meet me.
Yeah. And so talk a little bit about that, like kind of future pacing them. When you say you're looking for houses or you're sending them, do you set them up on an internal search so you get their search, or do you just set them up on an external search and set them free?
Yeah. So, a lot of realtors will put them into a system where it'll automatically give them houses in their criteria. And that's great. That's cool. But what I learned is I think there's a lot more success just doing the work, finding them houses and sending it to their text message or however you're going to do it. I personally just send them the house link to their text message. I think it kind of builds more of a rapport. And let's be honest, I sell a lot of houses. I can do it. Most realtors can set aside a little bit of time to send their clients homes.
Yeah.
So that's what I do personally.
I think at least in the front end, especially like once they've looked at some homes and maybe the automations can help. But I mean, I will tell you that when I'm talking to clients and things like that, I ask them, how is your realtor, whatever. Oh, I found the house is almost one of the first things always out of there. They didn't do anything. I found all the houses and sent them to them.
Yeah.
And they, that's where realtors just unlock doors kind of comes from. So the fact that you're doing that as you go forward, hand picking some of the houses allows you to make it not super obvious when you just, or a one-off when you just send them one house.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that builds a ton of rapport and go from there. So now my question, having sold 70 homes, what specific systems do you put into place? Like, do you use a CRM and campaigns, or how do you keep track of, the people that maybe you showed a house to and, it didn't work out the first time?
Yeah. So there's a ton of different ways to incorporate your personal CRM. I would say do what works for you and be consistent in it. Of course, I have a CRM. I think you have to have a CRM if you're a high-performing agent. So in my CRM, I try to keep it super simple. I have clients that just I put them on nurture a lot of times if it's a lead that was not responsive. But if it's a client that is looking at houses, I put them on warm. Okay, so I either do nurture or warm. I keep it super simple. And then I look in my warm sheet every day and I scan the market and I see if there's any houses on the market that would match my CRM in the warm section. And that's what I do every day. Now in my CRM, I also have like a drip campaign almost where I'm emailing, my clients that are on a nurture platform, once a month and things of that nature. But for the most part, I try to simplify it pretty quickly into nurture and warm. And then my warm clients, I'm looking for homes.
Yep. Okay. So you just have the list, you're using your CRM manually. Like it doesn't, maybe the automated campaign of once a month, keeping in touch. That's certainly, top of mind kind of stuff. But obviously if you're everybody that's in warm that's looking, you're like, okay, boom, here's some houses. In general, like, especially with these, internet leads, you're serving certain zip codes for those leads, right? So I'd imagine you're looking at the market and you see one house and you might send that to a couple people.
Yeah.
So outside of that CRM, what other systems do you incorporate, or is it just pretty much the getting onto the online lead platforms and kind of learning those as you go, using their system a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, a lot of what I do is just with that CRM and I send them the homes. I keep it pretty simple. That's what's been working for me. In the future, I might get a little fancier, but at this time, that is just what I do.
Absolutely. And so say they're in the warm and they just kind of fall off and those kind of things, are you doing anything special, or do you have one small tip that you utilize to kind of identify? Because I would imagine throughout this process, especially with online leads, of course, everyone's like excited. They want to see that house. Maybe they see another one, but then they start to filter out. At what point do you what's a tip that you take from that as far as getting them pre-approved or pushing them to the lender? Or what point do you, really qualify them?
Things happen all the time, right? We're in real estate. If they decide that they're not going to be looking anymore or something like that, I will put them back into nurture, and I still look at my nurture all the time. But when it comes to the pre-approval process, I always learn to give them one free lunch. I think that's worked really well for me. So like I was saying earlier, we're trying to get an appointment. We're trying to meet the client. And then from there, I'll show them one home, and then I will try to get them pre-approved. And usually I do the pre-approval talk at the end of the showing as well. So sometimes they're pre-approved, but a lot of times they're not, and then we're going to weed out a lot of people from that pre-approval process. I think a lot of people don't understand how low conversion online leads can be. I think the average is like 2%. but it's possible to be a lot higher. When I was at the Zillow Flex brokerage, I was at 15%, it was the number one in the state of Ohio in online conversion. So the leads can be good, but you almost have to think in your head that every lead that you get, they're going to buy a house. You can't be negative and think, oh, this is, crap. You have to almost brainwash yourself and think each lead, is going to buy a house. And I think that works.
Yep. And I mean, what would you say your conversion rates now over all of the platforms? I know it's not in one place, but if you could estimate what that looks like.
Probably 10%. Yeah.
So you're maintaining 10%, which is way above the average. Obviously, the number one new agent at a brokerage of 80 to 90,000 agents in your first year here, closing 70 transactions is pretty incredible. So as you can see, he's moving forward, but now he's gaining all of this experience. Mm-hmm. And when he's talking about, his general sphere is still not buying homes, right? Then we're still continuing this nurture. And you and I have talked a little bit about this as far as, developing a system for your past clients and that kind of stuff. Have you dove into that or brainstormed that and how you think that will look in your simplicity kind of state? So,
yeah, I think you made me realize that a lot of gold is also in my past clientele. So what I'm doing now, and even what you told me a few weeks ago, was do annual real estate consultations. I've never thought of that. So I've already incorporated it into my business where I've met a couple past clients. And one the other day, I just met her at her house and I just kind of maintained that relationship. And her son's looking for a house. Mm-hmm. So I think, like you said, when you have that past business or a sphere, it's very good to maintain that with an annual real estate consultation. And I think how you explained it was a lot of people are meeting with their financial advisors quarterly. Mm-hmm. Why wouldn't you meet with a realtor once a year just to speak about your biggest asset? So that's one thing I've incorporated right away. I do Christmas cards as well. And a lot of times I'll do a random text and I'll just say, hey, how's the house? Or, I'll just ask them if there's anything I can do for them. So, yeah,
I think making those connections for sure is key. And again, like when I'm doing annual reviews, some people still are like, oh, we're not selling, whatever, because the client is so used to just the shotgun CMA, like, here's your value. Now they can hop on any internet real estate site and figure out an estimated value of their home. And so being able to get in those conversations always leads. I get more referrals from those meetings, as you will too, than, actually selling that house. Because it's right. Especially in our market right now, I don't want to sell a house for 2 years that I helped someone buy, because that means something went poorly in their life or experience. So, right. That's a key piece of that, and to develop referrals, but you're also just providing value. And for somebody who has at least 100, 150, 200 past clients already at the age that you're at, like, this is an absolutely massive piece of the business, because everybody kind of runs in the similar packs, right? If you get a first-time home buyer, it's likely that they have a few first-time home buyer friends, right, that are maybe not to that point. Or you get a move-up buyer starting families. Well, families hang out with families, and as families grow, we need bigger houses. So really cool piece there, and I'm excited to see kind of how that continues to grow, because if you turn each one of those 200 deals into 1 or 2 or 5 referrals over the life of your career, eventually when your sphere's ready, you won't have to be on those online.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
So that's really cool. So, as somebody who's made it, who's wrote the book at this point, what is one thing that maybe was your aha moment with converting these online leads that new agents might not figure out without the volume that you've done?
Yeah, so I listened to my mentors and I applied it to my business. And at first, I didn't know if it was true or not. But I think following up with clients, once I started to realize, maybe 6 months in from getting consistent leads, I realized, holy cow, what they were telling me was right. But then also on top of that, and I think this is one of the most important things, is just making relationships. My old broker, he taught us just focus on making long-lasting relationships, and the money will follow. And that is what happened. So, like you said earlier, I don't think, we're salesmen. I think we're in the industry to make relationships and help people. And I've been able to help, honestly, hundreds of people already find their home, and they've had amazing stories. So I think helping people and building those relationships is probably the most important thing.
Yep. And I think that removes the salesy piece, right? I don't see myself as a salesman. In fact, I've been quoted several times to say I've never sold a house, right? It's all about the relationship, matching the needs, and, coming through for the desires of the client, whatever those look like. And the house is the house. There are a dime a dozen. We can find a house that's not going to disappear off the market, quickly now, but even when it was disappearing, the next one would come up shortly thereafter. And so I think really dialing down that relationship without the sales piece, and not having, to make that next sale, to be on the, put food on the table, is a huge advantage. And I think sometimes early on, especially, like, we get that lead and it's almost like we have to trick them or convince them, right, to buy a home. Where if you operate from abundance, that one person may never buy a house, but the 5 to 10 other people that they're running with may, right? And so if they can have a really good experience and you're there and you do the extra work for them, even though maybe it doesn't come through, honestly, is a thing. And so a lot of people say, they have to be pre-approved, they have to be this, they have to be that. Like, if I get the chance to be in conversation and in flow with somebody who is, wanting to buy a house and then something doesn't work out, people are like, well, that's a waste of time. Well, no, it's not, because I'm focused on the relationship, right? And so talk about how, you've turned one of your clients into who's that one, like, golden client that has given you multiple referrals. Do you have a story like that, or do you have anyone that you can think of that's like, that's an A+, client in my book?
Yeah, I think there's several. And I've had several clients that have helped me sell multiple properties of theirs. And I think all of that just builds from having that trust and not having, like you said, being desperate for a sale right off of the get-go. And having patience and just understanding that, if you maintain that relationship, ultimately they're going to buy something, and it will be through you if you just maintain that relationship and have some patience. Commission breath is just a terrible thing. It's just a terrible thing. So I've actually had several clients where they referred me to their family and their aunts and uncles, and I've had several showings where I met them. I didn't require pre-approval, and they never bought a house from me, but their aunt or uncle did.
Yeah.
So I think just always carrying yourself with that honesty and just building a proper relationship with them will give you plenty of referrals in the future.
Yeah. And I think it's all perspective, right? If you show a house to somebody that doesn't ever end up buying, well, you already said right here, like, your number one path to success was learning everything about the house, getting the experience about showing a house and all of that. At the very least, if the relationship goes nowhere at the start, off the jump, then you at least gain that experience, and you can take that experience to somewhere else, right? Or I could have shown that better, or whatever. And it boggles my mind that young agents who typically not young, but newer agents who typically have a little bit more time on their hands, unless they're working a part-time job, which is a whole other conversation, do not practice and get experience using the tools that we have to use every day, right? Setting up a showing, running through the MLS, knowing how the MLS works, lock boxes, how to show a house, appliances, cabinetry, flooring, all of those things combined, you can get experience just from having a conversation. right? And if you say something that sounds dumb or stupid, we've all said it, where we're like, well, I just blew that one, right? I had this opportunity and I just went for it, and that's not what they wanted, right? They weren't picking up what I was putting down. And so talk about that. Talk about how, every instance and every mistake or non-closing relationship has transitioned into, something more for your business, even if it's not a closed transaction.
Yeah, that's great, because you hear about all of my wins, right? But there's a lot of losses on the back end. There's a lot of rejections and a lot of no's. And you've heard this a lot too, but every no is going to lead to a yes. And so I've had so many different situations with showings and phone calls and cold calls where it didn't work, or something wasn't right, or I wasn't educated on the matter. But I made sure that after that, I tweaked it or I improved that. And so there's so many different things that can go wrong, but that I think you should just take that as a learning lesson and just learn from that and don't make that mistake again. So I think that's absolutely right. And a lot of agents that are winning a lot, I think they're also losing a lot, but they're making those tweaks.
Yeah. I mean, you got to get the reps, right? I think as humans, we think we're all so different. And even as agents, we think, oh, we're all different. We're all bringing the same. But I mean, you can attest to this in the online lead world. I mean, how many real different conversations have you had? Right? There's probably 10 base conversations that you just have over and over and over again. Yeah. And it's not because you're like just a script robot. It's because people say the same things, right? They say the same things when they meet you. Like you said, you've developed a, kind of move on script for, oh, you're young. How old are you? Right? Like, boom, let's go. I'm 22. Like, let's go inside. Notice it's not, I'm 22, I'm the number one new agent at this brokerage, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, because you mentioned it's not about your accolades. It's about the actual knowledge, because they don't care how many homes you've sold. Granted, it comes into play and it probably shows. But as we kind of move forward and talk about the brokerage and the opportunities now, because now you're starting to get into a little bit more outreach with agents and wanting to partner with agents, which you are able to co-sponsor with Landon and myself. Actually, you don't even have to co-sponsor, because Landon is my organization. So you could sponsor under Landon and have access to both of us. If you do, you can book a call on reagentwolfpack.com. Or you can reach out to Landon on that, but just make sure you mention this interview, so I make sure you get connected with Landon. But with that said, the transition from a more traditional brokerage over to EXP, why do you think at your age especially it's such a valuable place to grow your business?
Well, I think EXP is one of the fastest growing brokerages, out there. There's a lot of training that young agents can have. I think there's 40 hours of training on EXP a week, but then we also in our Wolfpack Carbon Collective community have Monday, Wednesday, Friday training. And so there's a ton of information that you can access and implant yourself to that will help you grow faster than other brokerages. And all of these agents that are in our community, they want to grow and they want to help each other. And that's a super important factor, is because, my old brokerage, the problem with that is, people don't really want to help each other as much. There's withholding of information, because what benefit do I have of sharing my wins with my competition? Whereas with eXp Realty, we all win, we all want to help each other, and we all want to grow. Yep. So it's a perfect opportunity to start and learn how to grow.
Yep. And I think the geographic restriction is a huge part of that. Now, it's not like within our family, we wouldn't, work together and help each other grow with the competition, in our specific market. But myself being in Colorado, you being in Ohio, there's no, I'll tell you whatever, and the way it's set up is different. We all can win together. But I think the geographical restriction of the brick and mortar office leads to some of that kind of angst and so on. So as we kind of wrap up, if you had to start over tomorrow, you're 20, let's say 21 years old, right? So last year, if you had to start over, what would your first 30 days look like? Where would you go? Talk a little bit about what you would subscribe to as far as some of those pay it lead closing.
Yeah. So first 30 days, I would be doing what I did at the start. I would access online lead platforms because those are leads that you can access. And those are people that are looking at homes. So I would plug myself into Zillow, realtor.com, Redfin, and then any other outside referral platform. If you don't have a lot of money at the start, I would do a program like Redfin, for example, or Upnest, where you pay out of your commission on the back end, just so you can have these conversations, meet these people, and get in the home. So I would plug myself into that. I would be consistent every single day. That's also something that a lot of agents aren't doing, is they're not being as consistent as they need to be, and they're looking at all the shiny objects instead of focusing on a couple solid routes. So I'd be focusing on online leads, and then I would be meeting local professionals, whether that's inspectors, service providers, contractors, lenders, and I would be trying to have as many conversations as I possibly could have, because at the end of the day, a lot of people ask other realtors, how many conversations are you having a day? And they say, maybe one, and that's a problem. Mm-hmm. So I would be having as many conversations as I possibly could have, and I would be trying to grow that online lead platform, because I think that's one of the fastest ways to grow a business as a new agent. So that's what I would do.
Yeah, and I think those conversations boil down to education or lead generation, right? I always say leads are just data points. If it's not a conversation, it's not going to take you anywhere. So having as many conversations as possible. And at first, it might be 3 conversations with people in the industry, right, that you're working at getting in front of, but you're taking that knowledge. And so that when you do have the conversations with others, you can kind of, go from there and get to that point. So what separates young agents who win fast from those who kind of stall out and maybe give up and get back into, the working world, or kind of give up on the dream of being their own boss?
I've seen it a lot already, and they have so many different ideas, but they don't execute it, And once again, they're looking at all these shiny objects, but they don't put their head down, focus on a couple of platforms that work, and stick with it. They don't give it enough time either. They might give it a month. A month's probably not long enough. Mm-hmm. You need to stay consistent and find an avenue, find a niche that works for you, and don't stop doing it. So that's a huge issue that I see with a lot of new agents, is they only give it a month or something of that nature, and then they go on to the next thing, and then they go on to the next thing. And I think that's the worst thing you could do.
Yeah, I think there is definitely a lack of execution, right? Because no matter where you're at, you have realtor boards, you have people that are providing education, but we go to these big conferences, or we go to these trainings and these seminars, but we fail to execute. We fail to plug in. Right? People pay hundreds of dollars to go to conferences and things like that, and they try and take it all in. They try and implement everything, where every single day, if you take one thing and implement it into what you're already doing, I think that's absolutely massive. So developing that habit stack, like Landon mentioned, getting into a CRM and every single warm lead, right? Every single person he's been in a home with, he's just making sure he's touching base with them with a piece of value. Like he said, they come to him from, looking at homes, so they want to find a home, right? So we have the ability to understand that, see maybe a deal coming on or whatever, and sending that home to them personally in a different format than just an auto email, right? If they can unsubscribe from the email, maybe we're not, doing our due diligence on the front end. Now, once you get down the road and you need that system, and you can use your website, or you can use your MLS, and you can kind of keep an eye on the back end, yes, that's all great, and it will work. And I'm sure Landon will get to a point where he needs some of that assistance. But as for now, he's doing 70, 80, 90 deals in a year. and he still has time to send his clients hand-picked properties, which is a testament to the execution. So Landon, thanks so much for hopping on. You're amazing, tremendous success. Well spoken about your trajectory and kind of the simplicity of what you've done, right? Everybody can do exactly what you do. Get education, plug into some online lead systems that work, create pillars and focus on those. But where can people follow you? Where can people find you if they have any questions?
Yeah, find me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. My name's Landon Barr, and you can find me there and reach out.
All right. Northwest, really just Northern Ohio. The guy covers a decent amount of real estate over there. So Landon, thanks so much. Please reach out to Landon, connect with him, and follow along for his journey, because it's certainly only just beginning.